Today, Michael Cohen will learn how many years he'll spend in prison for violating campaign finance violations, tax evasion, and lying to Congress. Michael Cohen implicated President Trump in some of his crimes. So how are Republicans responding to that news? Joining us now to talk about this and more, we have Republican Senator John Kennedy. He is a member of the Judiciary Committee. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Allison.
When you read that in the sentencing memo that Michael Cohen said that he was coordinating with individual one, a.k.a. Donald Trump, and directed by Donald Trump to commit those campaign finance violations, was that a game changer for you?
Well, when I read the filings by Mr. Mueller, I was looking primarily for evidence of illegal Russian collusion. I didn't see a lot of that. In terms of the allegations about the Campaign Finance Act violation, certainly the Campaign Finance Act is a serious statute, and a violation of it is a serious thing. I've been asked if I think Mr. Mueller will prosecute on the basis of that. I don't. I think Mr. Mueller's a smart guy and a good prosecutor, and I think he would have to based on what I've seen, a large part of the prosecution on Mr. Cohen's credibility, which is doubtful at best. He would have to prove mens rea and intent, and he'd have to somehow get around the John Edwards case. So I doubt he'll prosecute.
Well, I hear you. I mean, I understand what you're saying going down, whether or not he'll be prosecuted. But since you think that a campaign finance violation is, as you said, a serious thing, what do you think the responsibility of Donald Trump should be?
Well, somebody first has to file a claim or a charge, if you will, with the FEC, or Mr. Mueller would have to indict him. Most Campaign Finance Act violations are civil. To prove a felony, you've got to prove mens rea or intent, and that's difficult to do. Now, the president has already said that for him it was a private business transaction. You can choose to believe that or not, but
do you believe that?
I have no way of assessing that, no.
I guess my question, Senator, isn't so much about the procedural issues of whether or not this can be successfully tried. It's, do you think that hush money payments to a porn star and a Playboy playmate who alleged that they had affairs with Donald Trump while he was married, do you think that that would have been relevant information for voters to have before they went to the polls?
You know, Allison, I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me, did the American people understand that President Trump was a flamboyant player in politics, knew that he was, and that he had an unconventional style, I'd say no. I don't think folks in Washington give the American people enough credit. Folks in Washington think that they're the only smart ones in America, and everybody has to look to them to figure it out. The American people figured all this out early. They knew what they were getting with President Trump.
Yeah. And I guess, Senator, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I guess that what I'm asking is that is character still important to Republicans?
Well, of course. I hope it's important to Democrats too. It's very important.
Well, I mean, it's the Republicans, for instance, when Orrin Hatch says, I don't care, but he cared a lot about Bill Clinton's philandering, that's what's the head scratcher.
Well, I care. I mean, Orrin can speak for himself. I care. I'll bet you in his heart of hearts, President Trump regrets ever associating himself with Mr. Cohen. Maybe Mr. Cohen was a great lawyer and produced great results. I don't know. But he looks to me like, I don't know the man, I've watched him operate, he looks to me like he's a gangster.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not the association with Michael Cohen that I'm asking about, it's the one with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, and if that still matters.
Well, yes, but I trust the American people to make up their own minds about it. You know, I've talked about this before. I think part of the problem, and both sides are guilty in Washington, D.C., is that people in Washington, D.C. think they're smarter and more virtuous than the rest of America. And I would prefer I trust the American people to make up their own minds. Now, some of them clearly don't like President Trump. Others do. I mean, You know, half of America says every day, give the guy a break, and the other half says, how did this happen? But I trust the American people to make up their own mind. And we'll get another shot at it in 2 years.
Yeah. Senator, I want to ask you about the moment in the Oval Office with Senator Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and the president about the border wall funding. So let me just play for you a moment of what happened yesterday.
Okay.
We don't get what we want one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call. I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
we
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. What's
your reaction to what was said and how that played out?
Well, my point of view, I think, is a little heterodox. I didn't think it was a spectacle. I appreciated the transparency. I've been in meetings like that before. That meeting was pretty tame compared to some of the lively discussions we have. That would be the first point. The second point is, look, I happen to think that walls work. I've seen them work in America, Israel, Bulgaria, Malaysia, but I don't think that's the issue here. I think the issue here is, well, let me put it another way. I think we're going to have a shutdown.
You do?
And I do, and I think we're going to have a shutdown for two reasons. Number one, President Trump does not look to me like he was bluffing or is bluffing. And number two, I don't think Speaker Pelosi is going to agree to anything because she's worried about her speakership.
And are you comfortable if there's a shutdown next Friday because over this border wall funding?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think the American people look to us up here to try to make things work.
And who gets blamed if there's a shutdown? Do you think that it's the president or Congress?
As far as I'm concerned, if it's shut down, it's a pox on all of our houses. I don't know politically who's going to win or lose this. I do know that too many people are preoccupied with the politics of it. We ought to try to figure a way out of this. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, and I could be wrong, and I hope I am, because a government shutdown would not serve the American people well. I don't think President Trump is bluffing, and I don't think Speaker Pelosi is going to give an inch because she wants to be Speaker. And if I've learned anything up here, and I hate to say it, but most people in Washington care about their jobs first.
That is breaking news. Senator John Kennedy, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, Allison. You bet.